Hi, I'm Craig Bacon. I'm a stained glass artist and fused glass artist, and I designed these LineWorx combs. I designed them because I wanted to make a lot of lines without a lot of fuss. So let's get into the features. So these are the LineWorx combs. They're made of TPU plastic, which is a little bit more rigid than a silicone, so they're still very, very flexible. They're waterproof, they're washable. I just recommend some hand washing. They're 4.5 inches by 3.25 inches in dimension, 115 millimeters or 80 millimeters, and about an 1/8 inch thick, so about 3 millimeters. I have them in very small, small, medium, and large. So those are the sizes of lines you'll get after firing. This is 1 to 2 millimeters. This is 2.5 millimeters plus or minus, 4 millimeters plus or minus, 5.5 millimeters plus or minus. These things are in 4 colors. We have the blue, the yellow, the green, and the red. And one thing that I want to point out is that the tines on these little flats right here, they're flat tines, flathead tines. Those are designed such that as you are drawing your comb through the material, it will create distinct gaps between the lines, so there's no webbing, so you have distinct individual lines that afterwards you can do whatever you want with them, but you'll have individual lines to work with. In the package, you'll get the set of 4 combs and then also a getting started guide that includes some firing schedules. Let's get into how they work. So here we are in front of the kiln shelf. I've got all the LineWorx combs laid out. Small, very small, medium, and large. And I'm just going to demo how these things work. It really can't be any easier. So all I do, this is powder. This is aquamarine powder from Bullseye. And I'm just going to lay a bunch of powder on the shelf. Now you'll have to experiment with your own kiln shelf and how it draws through how long your line is going to be with the amount of powder. I forgot to mention too that this has one long side and a short side. Depending on what you want to do, you have that option. And so I'm just going to put a little bit more powder on here. And then I take my comb and I just draw it through. Now you might notice here that the edges where the comb doesn't comb through, those are going to be kind of fat lines. And everything in the middle will be pretty consistent. So the ones at the extremities are always going to be a little bit wonky. Additionally, you'll see in my tips and tricks flyer that if you don't modify the top here, it'll end up like a ball in the firing. And then you always get a forked tongue down here. So if you don't want that, you can always brush it before you fire it. So that's small. That's a 2.5 millimeter. And I accidentally did the small first. I want to do the very small first, but we're going to do the very small next. And this one, we're going to do a 2-color mix. So move that off to the side. I'm doing Kelly green Bullseye powder and then spring green Bullseye powder. And then I'm just going to draw it right through. And this time I'm going to do just a little bit of an S curve or a squiggly line. And so you can see the separation between all the lines. So when it's fired, it will be all separate lines. Every once in a while you might get one that kind of attaches, but really doesn't happen very much. Now let's do the medium. So this one and the large, because of the profiles, they do require quite a bit of powder. So what I like to do is combine it with like a 50-50 mix between a fine frit and a powder. That way you're not using so much powder, or you're not using so much fine frit. I don't have much success with the fine frit on the small and the very small. You kind of get like stops and starts after it's fired, kind of like a Morse code. So you might have better experience than I, but I generally just use powder for those two. So let's do a 50-50 mix of, let's do 50% light amber and then 50% charcoal gray powder. Light amber is the fine. So I use these weigh boats. There's that. And then I'm gonna just guessing. Nothing's that scientific. I may have too much here. We'll see. And then I'm just going to do like an S-curve kind of thing too. So sometimes you get like a, because I had so much powder there, I got a lot of spillover. So I'm going to try to retrace my steps and spread that out. And I'm going to leave that one because it's going to interfere with that. And then the large, I'm going to use this short edge because I'm running out of room. I'm going to do the exact same thing, the 50-50 mix, but I'm going to do it all sky blue. I'm going to use fine sky blue and sky blue powder. Gotta mix it around. The large is quite the hog as far as material, so let's just see. This might be too much again, but we'll see. Then I'm going to take this shorter end. I'm going to push it over. I'm just trying to fit it all on this shelf. Now this is going to spill off my shelf, but that's okay. Let me go in right here. And I think I'm going to keep it like that. This is going to be a big fat line. We'll ignore that. If I had a little bit more room, I would comb that back out. But it's going to give you a nice big, 5mm plus or minus line on that one. And again, on this one here, that's the medium, that's going to give you a 4mm plus or minus line. This very small is going to give you a 1 to 2mm line, and this one will give you a 2.5mm line. Now, I think maybe I'll try brushing these tips here so you don't get that forked tongue at the end on that one, just so you can see. And I just take a brush and I brush it in. And that's about all you need to do. So pretty simple. But these can be a lot of fun. Do all sorts of shapes. These are fairly simple, and you can do it where you just kind of twist it and get circles. And try like 3-color mixes, 4-color mixes. I mean, I can imagine someone even trying to use medium or even some coarse frit with the large to get even more texture in there. So let's pop these in the kiln and see what happens. So I just wanted to show that they're in the kiln here. I did this on kiln shelf paper. I find that kiln shelf paper yields a slightly cleaner line. You don't get the kiln wash dust embedded into the line itself. So there you go, ready to fire. So yeah, this is the firing. The kiln shelf is still warm, but I took it out of the kiln. You can clearly see the start of the line usually has a ball end, and it's fairly consistent all the way down. And then this is the one where I attempted to brush out that line. It did okay. So this is the very fine, and the ball end. The ball end. This is the medium. And then this is the large. You know, big bold lines down to really fine lines. Just really nice. Now the line quality, it's not like a stringer. It's got an organic quality to it. So I'm gonna get these off the kiln shelf, get them cleaned up, and we'll take another look. So here's the results on the light table. They cleaned up really nice. The way that I like to clean them is put them on a kind of a short hair carpet, and then take a damp brush and brush both sides. That gets rid of all the debris. Pretty nice. These very small lines are very delicate, but they did exactly what I designed them to do. Just nice organic shaping. So those ball ends, again, you can always brush those out so you don't get that ball end. Just kind of brush it so it's more of a taper. Using the meat or the smalls. And a lot of those fork tongues, you can also brush those out. This is the medium. Now I measured these just before I started this video, and they all are in line with the numbers on the comb itself. So this one here is supposed to be 5.5, and these are all like 5.2, 5.6, you know, that kind of thing. So they're right in line. But really happy. Hope this helps.